Welcome to Days of Roar, a Detroit Tiger podcast brought to you by the Detroit Free Press. My name is Mark Gorosh. I am here with soon to be off maternity leave, Free Press beat writer, new daddy Evan Petzold, back from the birth of his first child on to Days of Roar, and it just feels right. How you doing, Evan Petzold, new daddy?
Hello, Mark. Hello, friends. It's true. I am back on the Tigers beat with big news. In the Petzold family, Savannah and I welcomed our son, Daxton J. Petzold, to the world at 10:23 a.m. on April 3rd, which was the day before the Tigers home opener at Comerica Park. He just turned a month old on Saturday. Savannah's healthy, Daxton is healthy, and I'm loving every second of life as a family of three. Look, the birthing process was the most incredible experience of my entire life. I told Savannah, I fell in love with you all over again, just watching you give birth to Daxton. The experience, it's something that I can't even really describe. It's one of those things where it's like, if you know, you know, and now I know. And then from there, things got kind of crazy. Daxton spent 13 days in the special care nursery, which is part of the NICU. He spent nearly 2 weeks regulating his blood sugar, which was really, really low when he was born. The doctors, they run all these tests. Everything checks out except for low blood sugar. So he had to stay in special care while gaining weight and establishing his blood sugar reserves. That process just took time. It was really tough for Savannah and me. We were spending all day at the hospital for nearly 2 weeks, only to go home every night without our baby. And then we go back the next morning and we do it all over again. And it was pretty exhausting. And towards the end, the nurses gave us a private room so we could spend the night when we needed to. So spending that much time in the hospital, it was really challenging mentally, emotionally, but we leaned on our faith in Jesus and God's plan for Daxton. And then also a lot of home cooked meals from my parents that they brought to us at the hospital. And then on April 16th, Daxton finally came home. And we've been rocking it ever since. He's getting close to 7 pounds now, which is awesome considering he was born at 4 pounds, 15 ounces. He likes to eat. He likes to sleep. He likes to poop. He also likes to go for walks with us and read books with me. And that's pretty much been my life for the past month. Savannah and I, we're not getting much sleep these days, but we could not be happier. Everyone's healthy and everyone's doing great.
Well, I've seen probably over 100 pictures of this beautiful little boy. I try to keep track of him as much as they will let me and as much as I can pester the Petzold family to send me pictures, because we all know Mark Gorosh likes some pictures of some babies as a papa, and he is so cute. Oh my goodness. And I was teasing Ev today because finally after a month, if you understand this as a parent or a grandparent, Daxton Petzold is like unwrinkling now. He's like fully, he can start to really see what he looks like. And he is just so damn cute.
It's crazy because to us, he's a big boy now, but he's not really that big. He's still, just getting close to 7 pounds now. And it's just crazy because he came out at 4 pounds, 15 ounces. So when we saw him then and we held him then, it's like to us now he's huge. And then to other people, like we have friends and family and stuff like that their babies came out at like 8, 9, 10 pounds even. So he's still a small guy, but yeah, he is growing. And if you want to know how parenthood is going, I went golfing with my dad and my brother last Saturday. We played 36 holes. It was an all-day event. We do it every year. So it's something that we do annually. And halfway through, I started to really miss Daxton. And then when I got home, I teared up when I got to see him for the first time all day. I just missed my buddy that much. It's really a beautiful thing. That's how parenthood has been. Again, not getting a lot of sleep, but we are enjoying every second of it. But now I'm excited to kind of turn the page and get back to work. I'm excited to get back into the swing of things. I mean, the Tigers, what they're doing right now is nothing short of incredible. And it's real. What they're doing is real. I think that has been my biggest takeaway watching from the couch with Daxton in my arms. What the Tigers are doing right now, Mark, it's legit. Like, this is a team that is a real team. Like, they are a real team capable of going a really long ways. And they just keep proving it to us time and time again. What they did last year, not a fluke at all.
Well, here's a couple of facts for you people. Evan Petzold goes on honeymoon, misses the playoffs. Evan Petzold goes to be a daddy, takes care of Savannah, takes care of Daxton, misses a 22-13 start where the Detroit Tigers play pretty much the best baseball in baseball.
They better not start losing now because they have a plus 63 run differential, and that's the best run differential in MLB. And then you look at among AL teams, the Tigers rank first in ERA at 2.96 and third in OPS at .755. That's elite pitching and above average offense. So yeah, the Tigers are a good team. Right now, they are playing like the best team in the American League, which means they're playing like one of the best teams in baseball. That's the Tigers.
So Evan has also missed an 8-run ninth inning where Riley Green became the first major leaguer in history to hit 2 home runs in the ninth inning. And it's, he's missed a lot of things. And I just have to both laugh and feel bad at the same time, because if he is just so crazy hardworking, and he has missed truly what has been a lot of fun. And I'll be very happy to have him back. There's a lot of unanswered questions. There is 127 baseball games still to be played this year, plus playoffs, etc. And I just can't imagine doing it without my partner, without my, talking to him during games. And he's been getting back into it, and I am super happy to have him back. That's all I have to say.
I've been getting back into it a little bit this past week, as the Tigers had a 4-3 record this week. They went 1-2 against the Astros in Houston, and then 3-1 against the Angels in Anaheim. Some of the nuggets from this past week, Mark, you already teased the Riley Green one, where he becomes the first player in MLB history to hit 2 home runs in the ninth inning of a game. That happened in Friday's 9-1 win over the Angels, featuring 8 runs and 4 home runs in the ninth inning. Tigers also first team in the American League to 20 wins. That happened in Thursday's 10-4 win over the Angels. And then also in Friday's 9-1 win, not only did Riley Green make some history, Tarik Skubal, how about that? 6 innings of 1-run ball, completing one of the best 5-start stretches in MLB history. Hat tip to Tigers PR, led by Peter Chase, for this note. Tarik Skubal, in his last 5 starts, owns a 0.90 ERA with 1 walk and 38 strikeouts across 30 innings. Only Zach Gallen in 2023 and Corey Kluber in 2018 have accomplished what Skubal has accomplished in a 5-start stretch. One more thing. On the road trip, the Tigers have hit 20 home runs through 7 games. That leads all MLB teams since April 28th. 6 players have at least 2 home runs in those 7 games. Riley Green has 4 homers, Javier Báez has 3 homers, and Gleyber Torres, Kerry Carpenter, Spencer Torkelson, and Colt Keith all have 2 homers. Still have 3 more games on the road trip at the hitter-friendly Coors Field in Denver. That's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday against the Colorado Rockies. I'm sure there will be plenty more home runs in the coming days. But yeah, a 4-3 record this week, but it sure felt like it was more of a 6-1 type record this week, even though it wasn't, just considering the way the Tigers played. 1-2 against the Astros, and then 3-1 against the Angels, but it felt like they played even better than that.
Well, here's the other thing. I don't care who they play. Winning on the road in Major League Baseball these days, or especially in the first 5 weeks of the season, has been very difficult. I think if I have this correctly, there's only 2 teams that have been over 500 on the road. So we talked last week about how great the Tigers have started at home, 13-3, trying to get to a 52-53 win season at home and praying that they can go 41-41 on the road. And lo and behold, they are playing pretty well on the road, because I don't care if you're playing Anaheim, which has been a landmine of a place to play for 14 years, or Houston, where you played a really pesky Astros team that was not a lot of fun. They're 4-3 on this trip, and they're going to Colorado, who has won 6 games in the 2025 baseball season, run by the worst ownership. And it's really hard to say the worst ownership in baseball when you have the Miami Marlins and the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. But yeah, I would say the Manaforts are probably the worst owners in baseball. And it's time to go and at least try to win another series. I think AJ Hinch always looks at doing that. Winning a series. They won this series. They want to go to Colorado, get 2 out of 3, go home. Looks like they may get rained out on Tuesday. I would almost guarantee you that means they're playing a doubleheader on Wednesday. And I wouldn't be shocked to see Kenta Maeda come up and throw one of those games if they do it, because they love to spread out the innings, and it's been a lot of fun. I just want to touch on something with you, because you're always so fun to talk to about this stuff. So the other night, Puppet Master pulls Scoobs 65 pitches into it, 70 pitches into it, 1-1 game after after 6, ends up bringing in erstwhile side armor Chase Lee to pitch the 7th, and then brings in Chase Owens to end up throwing the 8th and then the 9th. People are going insane because they're mad that he pulled Skubal early. But why don't you try to explain to people really what Hinch has been trying to do this first 5 weeks, and will probably continue to do so for as long as he can in the month of May, about preserving his pitchers, and the fact that he was giving opportunities to guys he thinks he's going to use later on as the year goes on, and wants to see how they respond to the adversity. Talk a little bit about how that's AJ Hinch's style and the brilliance that seemed to upset everyone.
Well, if you even go back and you look at Tarik Skubal's pitch totals this season, 80 pitches, 93, 87, 91, 91, 91, and then now 73 against the Los Angeles Angels. He hasn't thrown 100 pitches yet in a single start this season. He will do that at a certain point. At a certain point, Tarik Skubal will get past that 100 pitch mark, and it's going to come at a time where they need him to do that. But you're right. I mean, there's a reason why Jackson Jobe, didn't pitch for 12 days in a row or something like that. This is something that Tigers want to do to try to preserve their pitching. They want to take care of their arms. Tarik Skubal in particular, he's their workhorse. They're going to lean on him a lot, especially as we get into the summer months. So it's not surprising to see the Tigers go that route. Yes, it was a 1-1 game, and I do understand that. But also, too, to your point, like, you have guys like Chase Lee and Tyler Owens, 2 guys that the Tigers got at the trade deadline last season. And you got to figure out what you got. Like, they're on the 40-man roster for a reason. And when you make the commitment to put those guys on the 40-man roster back in November to protect them from the Rule 5 draft in December, you got to figure out if they're going to be able to produce for you. And Tyler Madison, once he gets fully healthy, is going to be kind of that next guy up in that group as well, where the Tigers are going to be interested to see, okay, what can we get from this guy moving forward? But you have Chase Lee, you have, Tyler Owens, 2 dudes that have been there, done that at the AAA level, at the AA level. Like, they've done everything they need to do in the minor leagues. Let's see what they can do at the big leagues. Now you have guys like John Brebbia and you have Bo Brisky. Like, those guys were hurt at the time, coming back from injuries. There was no better time to use those 2 arms in particular and see what you got. And then in terms of just watching out with Skubal, I mean, it's protecting the arm with the pitch count and the innings and all that. Like, he is going to get into pitching, 8 innings, 100 pitches. Like, we will see that plenty of times. He has a lot more starts that he's going to make. And that's exactly why it's important to protect him in the here and now, especially early in the season. They could have let him go back out there for another inning, another 2 innings even. I mean, seriously, like, Tarik Skubal could have pitched 8 innings against the Angels. But, like, why? If you didn't need him to. If you felt confident in what you had in the bullpen, you want to give those guys opportunities in a close game, in a big moment, who knows? Like, maybe one of those 2 relievers are going to need to pitch in a big moment in September. And now they have some experience doing that, pitching late in games, in a close game, in a tie game. That's really important experience, even for young guys that might be bouncing back and forth between Toledo and the big leagues right now, because by the end of the year, they could be key fixtures in the bullpen. But again, you got to give them that experience now. I think that was really important.
Yeah, there's no more victory cigar pitchers on the Detroit Tigers. That's over. It's over for 2020, 2025. I can tell you that, as long as injuries don't ravage them. You're going to have to be able to perform. And I mean, look, Will Dust pitched in mop-up today. They needed to get him work. That's just how good they are. And everybody is going to contribute. And I think what you're missing about Owens and Lee is they're different in style than other relievers are on the roster. I mean, I thought Brisky looked much happier today after getting 2.5 weeks worth of rest. He looked much more like Bo Brisky. So there's a lot more to come on all that stuff. And I'm sure maybe next week we'll start talking about how the roster's going to get crafted in May. Matt Vierling out on a rehab assignment, first day today, DH'd at Toledo, and I'm sure Parker Meadows will be going out in the next 10 days. All right, it's time to get to the Big 2. Big 2, Ev. You haven't done the Big 2 since March. So question 1 of the Big 2. What have we learned about the 2025 Tigers through 35 games this season?
My biggest takeaway is, remember when the Tigers went on the 31-11 run to clinch a spot in the 2024 postseason? That success was not a fluke, not at all. The Tigers have proven that by getting off to a 22-13 start in the 2025 season. In their past 79 games, dating back to last year, the Tigers have a 53-26 record for a .671 winning percentage. That's winning 67.1% of their games. That's a 162 game pace of 108 wins. In other words, The Tigers are a good baseball team, and it's not a small sample size anymore. Are they a 108 win team like their last 79 games would suggest? Maybe not, but they might end up as a 90 win team in 2025. Like, it's the same team first, never quit, next man up culture that manager AJ Hinch established. Same team, same results. So why should we expect anything different in the final 127 games this season? Additionally, the Tigers haven't let the injury bug slow them down. They lost Alex Cobb, Parker Meadows, Winston Perez, Matt Vierling during spring training. All four remain on the injured list. Since then, they've lost these opening day players to injury. John Brebbia, Bo Brisky, Manuel Margot, Jake Rogers, Gleyber Torres. I remember 3 years ago when Riley Green suffered an injury in spring training before making his MLB debut. It was when he followed that ball off his foot against Garrett Cole. It was in spring training. He wasn't able to make his MLB debut until mid-June 2022. That injury sucked the life out of the Tigers and ultimately led to one of the most underwhelming seasons in recent memory. When Riley Green went down, remember, it was supposed to be Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson making the opening day roster together. And lo and behold, Riley Green has his injury, doesn't get called up until mid-June, and the season's kind of already a wash at that point. The Tigers were really impacted by Riley Green's injury. But this season, though, the Tigers didn't let any of the injuries derail their goal of winning the AL Central. I mean, team leader Matt Vierling goes down. Zach McKinstry steps up. X Factor Parker Meadows goes down. Javier Baez, of all people, steps up. Jake Rogers gets hurt. Dylan Dingler emerges as a legit number one catcher. Like, finding a way to win at all costs is something that's in this team's DNA. And we've seen that with the injuries. And they've also proven along the way, this team is no joke. This is not a small sample size anymore. The Tigers are a good baseball team.
Well, all I can say to you is AJ Hinch has strategized a style of play for this group of players, and they play that style of play beautifully like nobody else every single night. I think I wrote a clever little way to explain it. You had said something to me about the Tigers play like a motorcycle game, which I've also said before. But I think what they really are a masterful mix of a motorcycle game and hedge fund in their style of play and roster management and most of all execution. Yeah, they play like a motorcycle game, but they have the game laid out and strategized well before the game. The scouting reports, I think Riley Green tried to let people into a little bit of the preparation that goes on from a hitting standpoint. If you know Hinch and Fetter, Nieves and Lund, the detail of how certain pitchers will pitch, what pitches will be emphasized, and the sequences that first Jakey Rogers, now Dylan Dingler. Let's give a shout out to Tomas Nido, who has just been a revelation backing Dylan Dingler. You just never don't feel real comfortable, no matter who he's catching. Throws well, really calls a great game. It just fits in like a glove. Probably going to miss him because some other team for sure is going to want to claim him. So, but the Tigers just every day are great at executing their style of play. And I don't know how long this will last. Hopefully it'll last like it did in the 2006 season all the way into the World Series, and we'll see what happens. This may be even a better team than that. So, all right, let's jump into question 2 of the big 2. Javier Baez is doing things right now we've never seen him do as a Tiger. Looks a lot like 2017-18 Javi Baez on the Cubs. What version of him should we expect for the rest of the season?
That's such a good question. I mean, we'll have to wait and see, but this is a guy who is now a shortstop turned center fielder who can still play shortstop and can also play third base. And he's experiencing the best season of his tenure with the Tigers. Nearly 4 years after signing a 6-year, $140 million contract. He's hitting .309 with 3 home runs and .829 OPS in 28 games, also contributing +3 defensive runs saved across 99 innings in center field. This is the same guy who hit .238 in 2022, .222 in 2023, and .184 in 2024. He struggled in 2022. And then he was the worst hitter in baseball in both the 2023 and 2024 seasons. And then he undergoes right hip surgery, spends the offseason rehabbing. And now it's like Javi Baez is a completely different player, someone that Tigers can actually count on to contribute positively. It lengthens the lineup significantly to have him performing the way he is at the bottom of the order. So what has changed here in 2025? He has a 28.9% whiff rate and a 50.1% swing rate this season. Both of those are career low marks in his 12-year MLB career. In other words, Javi Baez is making more contact than ever before while swinging less than ever before. Some underlying metrics, such as an expected batting average that's below 250, suggest that his 300 batting average might not be sustainable, but the specific adjustment appears real. He's putting the ball in play more often with fewer swings. To me, that's a huge development from a guy who was a swing monster, would swing at everything and would swing and miss at everything. Right now, he's putting the ball in play more than ever. And now it's not an elite rate, not by any means. It's still significantly below average. Like, he still swings and misses a lot. But the fact is he's not swinging as often, and he's putting the ball in play more often than he has in the past. Those are real adjustments. I don't think that that's just like by happenstance. He is choosing to swing less, and he's also putting the ball in play more. There's got to be something to it, right?
I have a few opinions about what I think has transpired. First of all, we can never underestimate health. Obviously, some of these surgeries have finally helped him, at least for this first 5 weeks, be a lot healthier. The wild swinging seems to have diminished, and I have 2 words for what I think's happened with that. And I think you got to see quite a bit of the relationship that I'm going to refer to in the spring before you had to get out of there. But I think Gleyber Torres has had a massive impact on Javi Baez. He's tried to drill into him and make him understand what pitches he can at least make good contact with, how advantageous it is to get ahead in the count. And it's transformed him into a different player. I mean, the first 4 weeks, he swung well, did not hit for power, and now the power's coming as he continues to get more and more at bats. What I think they're going to do with him, I think what's going to happen to the lineup by the end of the month, and we'll talk more about it when we start seeing how healthy both Vierling and Meadows are, and hopefully nobody else gets injured, but third base is going to be a real interesting spot. I don't care what anybody thinks. Meadows is going to play almost every day in center field. Yeah, he might sit against the lefty once in a while, but that's most of the time. The interesting thing really is when you start thinking about an outfield defense of Parker Meadows, Zappa, Kinstry in right, and Riley Green in left to finish games. That's some sweet stuff. Let me tell you, the Tigers haven't had an outfield defense like that in quite some time. And you know, like I said, I think Matt Vierling is going to play some third base. I think Kinstry will play some third base. I think Javi Baez is going to play some shortstop and some third base. And poor Trey Sweeney decided to single-handedly wreck the day of the LA Angels. You would have thought Baez might have played even more shortstop. But I think Trey Sweeney keeps growing by the week, has his bad weeks, has his good weeks, but is a really even keel, reliable kind of guy. And I think they'll find places to play essentially 11, maybe 12 position players. The only 2 guys that aren't going to play regularly are a backup catcher and Andy Ibanez. So can't wait to see how that works out. I think Javi is for sure going to play less, probably in situations against pitchers that he probably can do well against. And the defense, I don't think we can underestimate the defense. And in case you haven't paid much attention or listened to what we've had to say, if you don't understand how AJ Hinch makes lineups, he could have done a lot of things during this injury, beginning of the season. And what really has always got players on the field for him is guys that play defense. You have to play defense to play for AJ Hinch. You have to play defense to be on AJ Hinch's bench. Yeah, he might have a bat once in a while, and J-Hen is kind of the exception to that. But the Tigers are going to be out there with a really good defensive lineup. Javi Baez is still going to play quite a bit, and I'm just going to be interesting to see where he seems to have embraced this role as a great utility player.
But I think, to be fair, Mark, if you hit, you are going to play as well, though, right? I mean, even looking at Trey Sweeney coming into Sunday's game, Trey Sweeney coming into Sunday, he was hitting just 206, 2 home runs. Now, yes, he went off, and now his batting average is up to like 234 or something like that. But still, he was hitting 206 in 33 games coming into Sunday. Javi Baez, on the other hand, hitting 300 going into Sunday's game. So, not to compare those 2 players too much, but just making the point of like, if there becomes a logjam at a certain point, which there will be, I think the Tigers are going to play whoever's hitting when it comes to Trey Sweeney or Javier Baez at the shortstop position. I think it's just going to come down to who's hitting, because you know you're going to get solid defense from Trey Sweeney for the most part. You know you're going to get solid defense from Javier Baez for the most part. But who's hitting? That's going to be the big question. I think third base is going to be some assortment of Zach McKinstry and Matt Vierling, and maybe Jace Young gets sprinkled in there a little bit more because they seem to be really wanting to get him going as he gets more experience at the MLB level. So maybe third base is kind of handled. Maybe it does come down to Javier Baez, Trey Sweeney, whoever's hitting more, ride the hot hand. Again, we have weeks to go until we get into that conundrum. But right now, I like what I see from Trey Sweeney. I like what I see from Javier Baez. I like what I see from Zach McKinstry. It'll be really exciting once Parker Meadows gets healthy and Matt Vierling gets healthy. That only makes this team better. A lot of things going right for the Detroit Tigers, and they're only going to get healthier. That's a really good sign.
It's been a fun 35 games, to say the least. We're going to take a break, and when we return, we'll be joined by the de facto third member of Days of Roar, Bobby Scales II.
I'd like to welcome Bobby Scales, radio analyst for the Detroit Tigers, to the Days of Roar podcast once again. He's essentially the third member of Days of Roar, and we need him desperately this week because I'm just getting back into the swing of things, and let's be honest, he is the real expert. Bobby Scales, thanks for joining us live from Denver as the Tigers prepare for a 3-game series against the Colorado Rockies.
Gentlemen, always a pleasure to be on with you guys.
So, Bobby, the Tigers, they were the first American League team to 20 wins this season. They currently have the best record in the American League at 22-13. We all knew the Tigers had the potential to be good, but I don't think anyone was projecting them to be the best team in the AL. How are they doing this? Is it sustainable? And what does it mean for the rest of the season?
Well, I'll start with how they're doing it. And the formula is one that we learned about last year. The pitching has been outstanding. A couple bumps in the road here and there, but for the most part, these guys, and the formula is simple. You get strike one, pound the strike zone relentlessly with strike one, whether it be with fastball, whether it be with off-speed pitches, get strike one. And then once you do that, win the first 2 out of 3 pitches. So find a way to get the leverage counts, whether that's 1-2, 0-2. They do that better than virtually anybody in the big leagues. I know they're number 1 first pitch strike percentage, I believe, and I think they're in the top 5 in 0-2, getting to 0-2 counts at about a 27-28% clip. So that's really it. When you can feel the pressure that this pitching staff puts on you constantly when you're just pounding the strike zone relentlessly with strike one. And if it's not strike one, very rarely do they get to 2-0 and 3-0 counts to always fill the strike zone back up and get to a leverage count or at least the even count. So they're pounding the strike zone, and then they can induce some weak contact, and they're catching the ball behind them. A couple blips here and there, but that's going to happen. They're humans out there. But for the most part, you put the ball in play and it's catchable. They make plays. The biggest thing that I think that they do defensively is they don't give up the extra 90s. They hit cutoff man. They shut down the 50-50 coin flip, like the stretch doubles. You see strong throws into second base, or you see strong throws into the base ahead, where whatever they're supposed to get, that's what they get. So if it's a double, it ends up being a double. If it's a single, it ends up being a single. They don't give up the extra 90s. They don't give you extra outs. And that comes from, it starts at the mound with being able to induce weak contact and working at a good pace. So, and then also offensively, right? Offensively, I think what you're seeing is the maturation of the plans that, Michael Brdar and Keith Beauregard and Lance Zawatsky give to each one of these hitters. They recognize pitches. They're on time, which gives them the ability to recognize pitches, see it longer, and they fire on the ones they're supposed to fire on, and they don't chase on the ones that are outside the strike zone. They get their plan and they stay on their plan. Last year, 2 years ago, all kinds of stuff, you have young guys who are desperately trying to make sure they stay in the big leagues, this, that, and the other. Last year, you saw the evolution of guys really staying with their plan. Now you're seeing a stubborn, absolute indignance to what they're trying to do at the plate. You're going to come in these zones, and when you come in these zones, I'm going to bust it. If you don't, I'm not going to do it. And they're taking their walks. And when you fire on the right pitches and you're on time, that's when you see the balls get hit hard. And some of those balls are flying off the walls and out of the ballpark right now. So it's fun to see.
So, Bobby, I wanted to ask you, there's some real obvious things that are going on, but I don't think people really understand how much of a detailed strategy the Detroit Tigers go into every game with. At the plate, on the mound, it's the same style of play literally every single game. there's some intricacies within the strategy for the day, but it's a pretty amazing thing to watch every day because you have to get them out 27 times to beat them. To be really honest with you, going back like 70 games, not too easy of a thing to do. And what they did to the Los Angeles Angels was pretty amazing to see over 3 of the 4 days. We were kind of having a good time talking about the Kyle Hendricks outing, which is just something in the course of 162 games you're going to see maybe once, maybe twice. You forget about it and go back to the hotel, get dinner, and come out today, and you saw what happened today. But just some amazing stuff of what they just seem to bring every single day. The other thing I want to expand upon what you were saying about, Brdar and Beauregard and the hitting coaches, Riley Green addressed that the night he hit the 2 homers in the 9th. It's like a level of preparation. They have a plan going up there. Yes, they're struggling within weeks of the season to execute that, which every major league hitter is going to struggle for 3 games, 5 games, 12 games. But the plan is so good. There's always 2, 3, 4 guys that are executing the plan within a game. And it's why it's so difficult to beat them for 27 outs, because there's always some guys doing some damage. I mean, look who drove in 11 out of the 13 runs today, okay? I wanted to also ask you a little bit about Spencer Torkelson. He's hit 175 in the last 21 games, I've said. And, that's legit. I mean, you can't hide from it. At the same time, pounding mistakes, and you and I talk about hitting all the time, and he's still on time for the fastball. I mean, and that gives me a lot of good feeling about him. They've totally changed the sequencing since the second week of the season. A lot of slow spin, a lot of spin down, struggling with it, but trying to punish it. Has hit the ball hard to the right side of second base a few times. But speak to how a hitter has to adjust within a season when, teams recognize that your swing's much better. You've made changes. They change back. You have to alter your pattern, and you have to adapt and improvise skills that maybe you haven't had to improvise before.
Yeah, look, this isn't 25 years ago, where even further back, I guess, where, they always say first time around the league, second time around the league. No, they know yesterday, like between video and, guys testing each other and this, that, and the other, they know. So there's no running from it. So if you get hot for a little bit, you don't get to stay hot for long. I mean, those guys, as my dad used to say, hey, those guys are on the varsity too over there, and they got information and they got plans for you, just as you have plans for them. So, I think what Tork's new refined approach allows him to do is it allows him to be more athletic, which we've talked about. And what does that mean? I think his pre-pitch is more rhythmic, and then he's more athletic. And so he's able to adjust. And like you said, the biggest thing for me, and the biggest thing I know for a lot of people who are deep into hitting, if you're not on time for his best fastball, it doesn't matter, right? And so he's still on time for the fastball. They're throwing a lot of spin at him because teams are going to get tired of giving up doubles and homers. And he's hit the ball very hard. He's hit the fastball very well. So they're targeting him now. And this is the treatment that Riley started to get last year. And we saw, him have such a great season because he did adjust to it, but they're circling number 20 on the scorecard now. This guy's not going to beat. He's got 10 home runs and he's in the 20s in RBIs and doing a great job. And yes, it's 175 over the last few games, but the mistakes he's gotten, he's punished them and hit them over the fence. So I think that what you're seeing with him, you're seeing the evolution. Again, I use that word because it is. You're seeing he made the adjustment. He had some changes to make in the offseason. He came out smoking and he was really hot. Dave made the adjustment. Hey, this is what we see. This is where we're going. Now it's a chess game. And I like where he is in terms of being able to make the adjustments because of where his approach and his body is now. And he got a little front side spinny in the Houston series, but this last series, you see him make that adjustment and stay back in the middle of the field. Now he hit the hanging breaking ball out the other night, but it was hanging up there and it was in. So he did exactly what you're supposed to do with it. Last year, he hits that ball 9 miles, but it's way foul. This year, it goes down the left field line for a homer, and he kept it fair. So for me, that right there is a sign that he's making the adjustments he needs to make.
Bobby, I want to go back and talk about the hitting as a whole. You mentioned the game planning. You talk to enough people around the league, you hear that Michael Brdar is one of the best game planning hitting coaches in baseball. You also got Keith Beauregard, Lance Zawadski. How much credit should be given those guys? And also, too, we've talked about developing hitters with you many times over the years. A lot of times you've shared insight into how hitting development in the big leagues, it just takes time. But we're at a point now where the question is starting to change for me. It's, hey, why is everything all of a sudden clicking for this team as a whole? Up and down the roster, up and down the lineup, with that game planning instilled by Michael Brdar, Keith Beauregard, Lance Zawatsky. What is allowing everything to come together? Because I think we expected the pitching to be really good as it was last year. The big question mark was the offense, and the offense is coming through. It's one of the best in baseball.
Yeah, it really is. So I'll talk about the hitting coaches first. And, back when I played, you might have had a hitting coach and maybe an assistant. Even when I was, at the end of my career in 2012, you had a hitting coach and kind of an extra coach that did a little bit of everything. Now, there's 3 coaches on the pitching side. There's 3 different hitting coaches on the hitting side. You'll have usually a lead guy and then 2 other guys that are assistants to him. But there's so much information and there's so many different things that go into hitting in 2025 that you need that 3-headed monster. I think too, typically what happens, you'll have one guy that's really good at this, or he's really good at the body movement or whatever. Or somebody that's really good at that to cover up some of the areas. And the key is getting those 3 guys to work together. And what you see is those 3 guys working in unison. And it's not about being right. It's about getting the hitter right, getting each one of those guys right. It's about coming up with a plan for Riley Green that works. It's about coming up with a plan for Colt Keith and Trey Sweeney that works, and Zach McKinstry. And the reality is you have to be very detailed and individualized in your planning and development of these hitters. Because yes, the one thing they have in common is they all hit left-handed. But the bottom line is Riley's body moves different than Colt Keith's, than Sweeney's, than whoever else, than Zach McKinstry's, right? So they move different. They think different. They have different personalities. The only thing they have in common is left-handed. That being said, they're going to get pitched different. All 4 of them are going to be pitched very differently. So you have to have individualized plans for each one of them against every pitcher you may see. That is a boatload of work and a boatload of time. And the most important part there is, okay, we go to work, we come up with these plans. Now we have to deliver it to the player in a concise, small bites, because hitting a fastball at 90 miles an hour, and we know it's going faster than that, but at 90 miles an hour, just by itself is difficult. But when you have all these different thoughts running through your mind, it's impossible. So how can we deliver the information these guys need, give it to them, have them study it, put it in the back of their mind, and then go out and execute it in the moment? These guys have done a phenomenal job of doing that. And that, for me, is the biggest piece to why you see this offense taking off this year. It ties into the second question you asked. Again, Trey Sweeney got his feet wet in the big leagues last year, had success down the stretch, played in playoff games. Colt Keith, all year in the big leagues last year, we saw him struggle in the beginning, chase the power in the middle when he wasn't getting results, got back to just hitting his hardline drives. And then at the end of the year, he was as consistent, as productive as anybody. He's been through it. Zach McKinstry, no rookie to the big leagues, played a ton in 2023. In 2023, a different role in 2024. You saw he had to make some changes, went back in the offseason, make them changes. They started to develop. Riley, taking an all-star last year, taking another big step forward this year. So at the end of the day, these guys are more comfortable operating in the big leagues. That's what it is. And that's what happens. The first step is you got to learn how to hit in the big leagues first. People can say what they want to say. You can go chase the power. I think we're in baseball right now. I think we're ruining more hitters than we're getting right by asking them to access the power before they're ready. Learn how to hit in the show first. Then the power, if you have some, will come. I truly believe that. History tells that story. So I think you're seeing a great job of individual game planning by this hitting staff for each individual player on this roster, a position player on this roster. The second piece you are seeing are guys who are comfortable in big leagues. Now you're merging that together. You're getting collective buy-in as a unit. That's why this offense is taking off.
That sounds like a good mantra for Colt Keith. Hit first, then let the power come naturally. That's really, really good. I wanted to ask, you mentioned Riley Green, and then Mark also mentioned Riley Green giving credit to Michael Brdar earlier on. The way Riley Green has turned it back on, he was hitting 155 with 7 walks and 27 strikeouts in a 19-game stretch. But so far on the road trip, he's 13 for 28. That's a 464 batting average with 4 home runs, 1 walk, and 3 strikeouts in 7 games. How did Riley Green get back to being Riley Green again?
Honestly, and this is going to be such a boring answer. It was a mini slump. I mean, literally, it was just a mini slump. I mean, he's going to have, good Lord willing, he stays healthy. He's going to have 550 up to 600 plate appearances this year. We're talking about a 30 at bat stretch, and he's got track record to not worry about that at this point. So, it was the numbers don't lie. They were what they were. You just read them out. At no point was I worried.
I don't think anyone was worried, but it just felt longer than that. I mean, it was almost 20 games. It was a 19 game stretch hitting 155. It felt more concerning than it probably really was. But at the same time, he came back and bounced right back out of it like the Riley Green we know. So your point there is like, that's just who he is.
That's who he is. And it's at the start of the season. If you have that 20 game stretch in June, nobody's worried about it. You know why? Because you have a boatload of at bats. If you go with his normal production at a normal level and he's at 300 at bats where he would be in mid-June or so, and he has a 20 game stretch where he has a tough time, no one's worried, But because it came where it came after he gets off to a decent start, then he kind of goes down a little bit, goes into a little funk. And then it's like, oh my God, what's going on? Nothing's going on. He's fine. And he's been fine. So if it's a younger player, if it's a guy in his first year, there's concern. But for him, no, not concerned at all.
Bobby, you and I talk about being on time all the time, but, not just, let's talk about Riley for a second, but Riley Green, I think one of the most impressive parts I've really started to notice much more this last year is just the makeup is elite. He when he couldn't really time up a baseball, I just wasn't seeing it. I mean, he's missing so many hittable pitches. He just couldn't get anything on time. This brain wouldn't allow him to time up anything. But he took his lumps every day and he came back the next day to take more lumps. It was, they barely gave him a day off. He just has such a mature approach about it, just so level headed, which is really a huge part, I think, over a 162 game season of being a really, really good baseball player. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, and we've talked about it before, is to me, good Riley Green always begins with Riley Green hitting the ball hard oppo. And then once that starts happening, all the rest of the field and all the rest of the options start opening up for him. And it's always what I wait to see when he's struggling is he going to hit the ball hard to left field in some way? And then, but talk about that a little bit, because it's kind of how it started for him with this. It's not been different. And I just sometimes wonder if he gets away from that approach sometimes. And I wish he'd keep it as part of his everyday approach.
Yeah. And listen, I say this a lot on air and people are probably tired of hearing it, but I say it because one, it's true. And two, I believe 1000%. Good hitters use the big part of the field. Good hitters look throughout history. I mean, there's a handful. The Ted Williams shift is called the Ted Williams shift because he hit everything to the right side of the diamond. But the overwhelming majority of good hitters, forget great, they do it, of course. Good hitters who sustain themselves in the major leagues hit the ball in the middle of the field. The thing I think is unique about Riley is his swing naturally works that way. It's uphill. He's got it's not pronounced, but there's definitely an uphill path to the swing, and his swing and the way his body moves works to left center field. When he's right, his natural swing path goes that way. We saw in Houston hit two bombs to left center field. One to left field in the Crawford boxes, the other one way back in left center field in Houston. And so that's a very good sign because he's on time. And when you stay in the middle of the field and your bat path is flattened out and it's in the hitting zone for longer, what that allows you to do, it allows you to cover a wider variety of shapes and, more importantly, a wider variety of velocities in the strike zone. So if you get that hanging breaking ball, and I know we were on Riley, but I'm using torque, but if you're in the middle of the field and you get that hanging breaking ball and you're out in front of it a little bit, you hit it to left field naturally, organically, and it stays fair. And it's the same thing with what you saw with the cutter that Riley hit the other day off of Jansen out. And he was out in front of it a little bit, but it was in the middle of the plate, and the cutter actually didn't do a whole lot. So it was kind of like a slow fastball. The bottom line is, if you're thinking about pulling that ball, you pull it foul for you hit the homer, but it's foul. It doesn't count. It's another strike, right? And so making sure your timing's on that guy's best fastball in the middle of the field, it allows you to cover a range of velocities and a range of shapes that you wouldn't be able to if you're thinking pull side. It's just what it is. The best hitters in the league use the whole field, and that's just how it goes.
Javier Báez question for you. What's it been like watching El Mago these days?
This kid is a kid in a candy store. He's so freed up right now. I think the move to center field out of necessity, it's helped Javier Báez quite a bit. I think, it's not that he can't play infield anymore. We know that he can. but it's new, it's fresh, and it's a different set of circumstances that he's not used to having to work under. It's locked him in, and I think it's translated to all parts of his game. I mean, we've seen the catches. He's still an excellent base runner, and we're getting a better version of Javier Baez at the plate. And they say variety is the spice of life, and he's played shortstop and he's played infield for the entirety of his career, and he's had a chance to help. Here's another thing too. He's got a chance to help this team win by playing center field. And I think that resonates with him. It's grabbed his attention. I'm not saying he wasn't concentrating. I want to be very clear about this. But when you do something new and the team needs you to do something new so the team can be better, it grabs your attention, and he's dialed in right now.
He's definitely having fun. You can see that. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
But I wanted, as part of this Javier Baez discussion, talk to us about Gleyber Torres, the consistency level of at-bats every single day. I'm not going to get too much into the defense. It's been good enough. But the impact he's had on the whole lineup, and specifically on Javier Baez, that's been a big, big part of their offensive success.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing you heard about Gleyber Torres coming over from the Yankees is this guy is the same dude every single day. Just refuses to ride the wave of emotion that we naturally can have over the course of an 8-month, 162 plus game season. Right? He just doesn't do it. And I think some of that is just his personality. He's very easygoing. I don't claim to know him well. I know a lot of people that knew him very well when he was with the Cubs coming up. People forget he was a mega prospect with the Cubs, got traded over to the Yankees, and he got to the big leagues with the Yankees and started his career over there. But he was a Cub first. I know a lot of guys that had him right when he signed out of Venezuela at 17, 18 years old. And they said this guy was different. He was a steadying force among all the kids they're playing, in the academy and through the Cubs system at 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. And then he just continued to be that guy and evolved. So I think his calming influence in the clubhouse, his calming influence amongst the guys is having an effect. And then his right-handed bat and the level in the quality of that bat he delivers every single time he goes to the plate has ripple effects all throughout the batting order. So I think he's been immense for this team.
Bobby, get me up to speed on Jace Young. He's been in the lineup a lot at third base. Seems like pretty good defense at the hot corner, drawing some walks, not really much else other than that. What are you seeing from him offensively and defensively right now?
I think defensively he's settled in. I know there were some questions about what he's been doing defensively. What I've seen is he is very good coming in on the ball. Very good. He's got very active feet and very active hands, and he's been very sure-handed over there, and he's got enough arm to go ahead and rip it and let it loose and get it to first base. I don't think there's been any plays where he just didn't have an arm to get the baseball there. Offensively, I still feel like from the outside, I feel like he's still pressing a bit. Like he wants to impact the baseball so bad that he's getting pitches that he can handle and either fouling them off or they're not making the kind of quality of contact. I think again, it's just the process of settling in, realizing that you're good enough to operate here and go ahead and operating at about 90%. And I know Riley Green talks about that quite a bit. When he's in control of his effort at the plate, that's when you get the best version of him. When he's overswinging a little bit and it's not overswinging. It's overswinging because you want to do good things for this team. So you can understand the motivation, but realizing that 90% is enough and making sure you make good contact with the baseball, and his decision making is good. He's drawing some walks and he's swinging at the pitches he needs to swing at. Unfortunately, the quality of contact is not where he would want it to be. I do think that sometimes he just gets in a mode of overswinging just a little bit.
We've talked a lot about offense, mainly because that has been the big missing piece for the Tigers over the last couple of years. But we need to talk about the pitching. The Tigers lead the 15 AL teams with a 2.96 ERA. I don't think that's surprising, at least not as surprising as the offense, because we knew the Tigers would have a strong pitching staff. But Bobby, is there anything about the pitching that stands out to you? Whether it's Tarek Skubal or Jackson Jobe or the assortment of arms in the bullpen, anything jumping out to you on the pitching side as we spent most of the time talking about the offense?
Yeah, I mean, the starting pitching has been very good. I'm going to give the bullpen their flowers right now. Between Will Vest and Brennan Hanafy has come on. He made the team out of camp, got sent out because they needed a fresh arm and he had options. Unfortunately, it happens sometimes, but that power sinker is something else. Not going to punch out a bunch of guys. I personally think he can have the ability to do so. that slider is pretty good, but he gets so many ground balls and he has a knack for getting one right when the team needs one too. AJ totally trusts him. He pitches him in leverage. Canely out of the bullpen has been good. I think that changeup, it's, if you can throw a pitch 80% of the time, the opposition knows it's coming and you still can't square it up, that means you're pretty good. Brant Herter should get some flowers too. The variety of roles he's been asked to fill since the day he got here. He's a starter by trade. He pitched as the bulk guy, so he still was kind of on a starter routine, but it was getting open for. They asked him to come to camp and be a starter. And then they said, wait a minute, we'll be better if you make this team out of a pen. It goes in the pen, and he's been fantastic. The guys they brought up, Chase Lee, really nice. He's a different look, sidearm out of the bullpen, that two-seam fastball and that big sweeper, that frisbee slider, and shoot, I know Tyler Owens went up and came down, but that's exciting. 5'10", 96 miles an hour from a low arm slot. That's exciting. So they got Bo Brisky back today. He will be better as soon as he knocks some of that rust off. So all those guys down there, and I'm missing some guys too. Tyler Holton, he's been a little bit off, strike throwing not quite where it normally is. He'll be fine. His stuff is very crisp. He's got an assortment of a variety of pitches too, and he gets righties and lefties out at a really high rate. So that bullpen has been tremendous again this year. I miss some guys down there. That's no shade. I'm sorry, but they've all been very good.
Last thing before we get you out of here, you have been with this team every step of the way this year. I have been watching from my couch with Daxton. So enlighten us and our listeners. What is the atmosphere like inside the clubhouse right now? Because I have no firsthand experience at this point.
Confidence. They believe. This team believe. They know. It's not believe like, this is not, some kind of false bravado. They know they're good. This team knows they're good, and they believe they don't quit ever. They don't believe they're out of any baseball game. And if they get up on a team, they want to continue to pound. And the mentality in there it's awesome. They go about their business. They're very workmanlike in their business, but they have a inner arrogance and confidence. They're a good baseball team and they know it, and they're going to continue to work to get better. And that's the kind of feel and vibe you want to see, especially from a team like this.
All right, Bobby. Hey, thanks again for coming on the Days of Roar podcast. I'm sure we'll do this again very, very soon.
I hope so. Bring me back. I love being on with you guys.
Everyone, that was Bobby Scales, radio analyst for the Detroit Tigers. We have more to discuss about the Tigers, including the Kenta Maeda decision. But first, let's take a break.
All right, we're back. There's never more fun on Days of Roar than Evan Petzold, Bobby Scales, and Mark Gorosh chopping it up about the Detroit Tigers and baseball in general. I know we love it. It's kind of selfish. We would have them on like every week if they'd let us. So it's always just so much damn fun. All right. Evan Petzold has decided he needs to ask a question that I got a feeling I told him in the break that I think we're going to argue about. He doesn't even know what my answer is yet. What first round draft choice do we feel more confident about right now? Spencer Torkelson or Casey Mize? Evan, would you like to go first, or would you like me to provide you with my answer?
No, I'll lay the hammer down. I'm more confident in Casey Mize. I hope you agree.
I do not.
Oh my gosh.
But please share with me. Please share with me your insight about this.
No, I mean, this is just watching from afar. I've been sitting on the couch. I'm not going to act like I've watched every Casey Mize start. I'm not going to act like I've seen every single Spencer Torkelson plate appearance because I've been changing diapers and feeding a baby for the last month. But Casey Mize has a 2.70 ERA, 9 walks, 27 strikeouts across 36 and 2/3 innings and 6 starts. His whiff rate is up from last season. His strikeout rate is up from last season. I think it has even more room to improve in that strikeout department as he continues to learn how to use his best stuff, considering the whiff rates on all the individual pitches are up from last season. The underlying metrics also suggest what he's doing is legit. As for Spencer Torkelson, I'm not entirely sold on him having figured it all out. He hit .314 in his first 14 games. Since then, he is hitting .178 in 21 games. Let me repeat that. Spencer Torkelson has a .178 batting average in his last 21 games. Yes, the power is still there, but come on, he's hitting .178 in his last 21 games. How am I supposed to be confident in that? We've seen signs of improvement from Spencer Torkelson, and we've seen actual adjustments. So those are positive things that I'm really, really excited about. Just like we've also seen actual adjustments from Casey Mize. But for me, I'm more invested and more confident in what Mize is doing as a long-term thing. I think Spencer Torkelson got hot at the beginning of the season and then maybe fooled some people because, yes, he's still hitting for power, but the big thing has always been he needs to make more contact. He needs to move the ball forward. Sure, he's drawing some walks. Those are good things. Like, I like the things that Spencer Torkelson is doing. I like the plan. I like the approach. I like the thought process of driving the ball over the second baseman's head. Like, those are all really good things that Spencer Torkelson has been doing since spring training, and they've carried over into the regular season. But again, he's hitting 178 in his last 21 games. Like, that, there has to be something that's said for that. I don't think we can just hang our hat on that as something that's legit and something that we can count on. Like Casey Mize has a 2.70 ERA in 6 starts. He's tearing it up, and the underlying metrics support Casey Mize and what he's doing, whereas the underlying metrics for Spencer Torkelson, not so much.
Well, I mean, I have my own feelings about some of this stuff. First of all, Casey Mize, last start, not real good. I mean, actually, I kind of loved it because somehow he managed to get 21 outs, and the strike throwing was not real good. And, not a ton of swing and miss. Hasn't had a ton of swing and miss in his last 3 starts. The split isn't nearly as devastating as it was in the first 3 starts. Productivity-wise, still okay to pretty good. All right. Thrown 19 innings, given up 6 runs, gave up 4 last time out. Only the second time all year he's done that. But I think, what Casey Mize is famous for is pretty much inconsistency and a lack of swing and miss. And I think in some ways, the last 3 starts, you've seen him revert to the mean a little bit on that. And you need that really, really good split. You need to really sequence it well and get a little bit more swing and miss. So I don't think it's a slam dunk as you like to make it out to be. I think there's been some regression. Now, look, here's the deal with Spencer Torkelson. Here's the only thing I really care about. 2 words. On time. Is he on time? And although he is 100% regressed, hitting 175 in the last 21 games, I think that's more of a function of how he's being pitched. He is now in the vortex of you will never see a fastball unless it's either the first pitch of a sequence or the last pitch of a sequence. Otherwise, nothing but spin down, just isn't really hitting it well. He is brutalizing the fastball, and they're not throwing it at him. It's funny, 2 of his worst seasons couldn't hit the fastball. 2023, brutalized the fastball. This year, crushing fastballs. So the bottom line is you only can do 2 things, to revert to a more productive type of at-bat that he was having at least earlier in the year. And that's going to be either take those, breaking balls that are, falling out of the strike zone at the bottom of the strike zone that are balls and not swing at them, or learn how to hit them, whether it's hitting them the other way or pulling them. Or I don't think these are anything that's, I don't think this is anything that's happening that they're not aware of. And he's going to have to make some adjustments. The league's adjusted to him. He's going to have to adjust back. And I think once he does, it makes them throw more strikes and makes them throw more fastballs, I think he'll become even more productive, because it's not like he's not still hitting homers or still coming through with a decent amount of clutch hits. So,
and to be fair, Mark, Spencer Torkelson is on pace for like 46 home runs this season.
Yeah, I would be more than happy with 36 home runs. Okay. He also, I think he has 28 RBIs. So the bottom line is there's still plenty of upside in Spencer Torkelson. And I totally tip my hat to you about saying that these last 21 games, he's not making consistent contact. There's just way too much swing and miss. But I think there's also room for a lot of improvement there. And weirdly, because he is on time hitting the fastball, I think that he will learn how to do a better job against spin. Otherwise, it's going to be a long year, because that's all he's going to see here pretty soon. So, all right. The Tigers finally cut Kenta Maeda, the $8 million. What does this tell us about the Detroit Tigers?
Yeah, just to go back to November 2023, the Tigers signed Kenta Maeda to a 2-year, $24 million contract. He was making $14 million in 2024 and $10 million in 2025. He posted a 6.09 ERA last season, followed by a 7.88 ERA this season. The Tigers did what needed to be done by removing Maeda from the roster. I mean, his combined 6.21 ERA over the past 2 seasons ranked last among 123 pitchers with at least 120 innings. He was quite literally the worst pitcher in baseball during his Tigers tenure. To be fair, I loved the Kenta Maeda signing when it happened. I also liked the improvements I saw from Kenta Maeda in spring training, but once it became clear it wasn't working, the Tigers didn't hesitate to cut him. I love that as well. It tells me President of Baseball Operations Scott Harris won't let a bad deal get in the way of smart baseball decisions. It also tells me the Tigers will move on from players who aren't helping them chase the AL Central title, which is the goal for this season. I don't think a message needed to be sent, but it does send a message that nobody is safe. Whether it's former number 1 overall pick like Spencer Torkelson or Casey Mize, or someone who signed a long-term contract like Colt Keith, or even Javier Baez down the road if he falls on hard times again. Nobody is safe. You need to produce to be on this team. I think that means something. And I think that was shown with the Kenta Maeda slashing, getting him off the roster and moving on for him. As for Kenta Maeda, always respectful in the clubhouse, always owned his poor performances. He was a good guy, but he wasn't a good pitcher. Tigers won't miss him.
All right, let's move on. Kenta Maeda, glad it's over. And it's time to upgrade. We don't have to feel too bad for Kenta Maeda. He's going to get paid $8 million more this year. I'm sure somebody will sign him. Just would rather hit against them than have him pitching for us. All right, let's move on. Injury updates. One of the Evan Petzold specialties. So I'm kind of curious what you've been able to find out, if anything. We do know Matt Vierling gone to Toledo on a rehab assignment. DH today. What do you know about that?
Outfielder Matt Vierling, right rotator cuff muscle strain. Yes, he began his rehab assignment with AAA Toledo on Sunday. That means Matt Vierling will return to the Tigers by May 24th at the latest, barring a setback during the completion of his return to play throwing progression, which he still needs to complete. Remember, position players can stay on rehab assignment for 20 days. I bet the Tigers use close to the entire 20 days for Vierling. You'd rather be safe than sorry, especially with a shoulder injury that's sidelined him since late February. So looking for a Matt Vierling return around May 24th, as long as everything goes well as he completes his return to play throwing progression. John Brebbia, right tricep strain. He tossed a perfect inning on 9 pitches Saturday to begin his rehab assignment with AAA Toledo. He's going to pitch again early this week, probably on Tuesday. I'd expect Brebbia to return to the Tigers this Friday, which is when the Tigers get back to Comerica Park. Maybe he takes Chase Lee's spot in the bullpen. We'll see how that all shakes out. Parker Meadows, right upper arm nerve discomfort. He's taking batting practice on the field as part of his hitting progression. He's playing catch daily. He's doing defensive drills. He's eligible to return May 26th from the 60-day injured list, but I don't think we're going to see him until June. Hopefully, he will be able to start a rehab assignment by the end of May. Parker Meadows still needs to ramp up his return to play throwing program beyond just playing catch, which all he's doing right now is just playing catch. So we can't say that his return is coming soon until he increases volume and distance without any setbacks. Outfielder Manuel Margot, left patellar tendon strain. He's played in 5 games on his rehab assignment with AAA Toledo, including 2 starts in center field and 1 start in right field. He should be ready to return if the Tigers want to activate him. I think Justin Henry Malloy is probably the most at risk of losing a roster spot to Margot, which is the only immediate roster move to discuss on the position player side. We still have time for Matt Vierling and Parker Meadows. And then on the pitching side, of course, John Brebbia is coming soon. As for everyone else, Jake Rogers, left oblique strain. He's playing catch, hitting off a tee, completing defensive drills. Alex Cobb, right hip inflammation. He threw his latest bullpen session on Friday. Sawyer Gibson-Long, right elbow and left hip surgeries. He completed his 3rd live batting practice session on Saturday. So he's faced hitters 3 times, which means SGL is getting close to a rehab assignment. Wencio Perez, lumbar spine inflammation. He's hitting off a tee. He's playing catch. He's completing defensive drills. And he's progressing through a return to play running program. I think we could see Wencio Perez ready to play for the Tigers by the end of May, but I'm not sure that he's much of an upgrade, especially with Javier Baez doing what he's doing in center field and Matt Vierling on track to return within the next 3 weeks. I think Wencio Perez could stay in AAA Toledo upon the completion of his rehab assignment, just considering the way the roster is currently constructed and the fact that Wencio Perez wasn't hitting too great in spring training. He was almost the guy that they needed just kind of out of necessity. Even back when spring training started, it didn't seem like Wencio Perez really had a pathway to making the opening day roster. And then once the Parker Meadows injury happened and the Matt Vierling injury happened, it seemed like Wencio Perez was destined to be the primary center fielder. And then Wencio Perez got injured right before the season started. So we'll see on Wencio Perez. Haven't heard about an exact timeline, but maybe he could be ready to get back into games, around mid-May, end of May. But again, not sure if he's much of an upgrade.
I think the Toledo Mudhens by the end of May are going to be a whole lot better baseball team than they are right now. That's what I think, because they're going to be getting 3 or 4 guys that are significant upgrades over what they have there right now. As far as Manuel Margot, would not shock me if they did not promote him and just DFA'd him, I think it's a touch and go kind of thing. I mean, we can have an argument about this, about what, I don't know, but I still think AJ likes Jahan quite a bit, and they're pretty much duplicate players. It's not like Manny Margot is some defensive wizard out there anymore. I mean, 5 years ago, pretty good. Now, not great. As far as hitting, I think, 6 one, half does the other, and you can be frustrated by Jahan, but the kid knows how to draw some walks. So even when he's not hitting, he's walking. And at the end of the day, that's what it's going to come down to. It's Margot or Jahan, and we'll be interesting to see what happens if they could DFA Margot. As far as Parker Meadows and Matt Vierling, I got a feeling next weekend, next edition of Days of Roar, Evan Petzold will have some updates on this that are much more from the inside, and we'll know a lot more where we're at with those guys because they can both come off the IL 23rd, 24th of May, and if he'll only be a week later in his rehab, and we'll find out really where Parker Meadows is at.
All right, Mark, before we get out of here, I have a quick baseball reference game for you and all the rest of the listeners. I want to know who are the top 5 WAR leaders for the Tigers according to Baseball Reference. Do not jump on your computer and look this up. It's a quiz. We'll see how things go. I'll give you number 1. It's Tarek Skubal. Who are the next 4 players on the Tigers WAR leaderboard according to Baseball Reference? You have Tarek Skubal, number 1, worth 1.5 WAR. Then who comes next?
Javier Baez, 1.2 WAR.
He's number 2 at 1.4.
Oh, excuse me. Zach McKinstry.
Don't let him get hot. Zach McKinstry is number 3 at 1.3 WAR.
Dylan Dingler.
You are wrong there on that one. Spencer Torkelson is number 4 at 1.2. Give me number 5. It is not Dylan Dingler, but it is a pitcher.
It is a pitcher.
It is a pitcher who we discussed in conversation with Spencer Torkelson earlier on this podcast.
Casey Mize.
Casey Mize with 1 WAR. So that is your top 5 on the Tigers WAR leaderboard through 35 games. Tarek Skubal at 1.5, Javier Baez at 1.4, Zach McKinstry at 1.3, Spencer Torkelson at 1.2, and Casey Mize at 1. Followed immediately by Dylan Dingler. He's 6th. With 0.8. And then you have Riley Green also at 0.8. He's 7th on that list. Of those players, not including Tarek Skubal, Mark, who has the best chance to still be in the top 5 when the 2025 season ends? Javier Baez, Zach McKinstry, Spencer Torkelson, Casey Mize. Who has the best chance to still be in the top 5 on the Tigers WAR leaderboard when 2025 ends, and why?
I'm going to go with Spencer Torkelson, believe it or not, because A, I think he'll be playing every day. And B, there's no reason why, especially with his improved defensive metrics, that he cannot keep duplicating in some shape or form what he's been doing recently. He's got this WAR number, and as you said, he's hitting 175 in the last 21 games. I got to think he's going to hit a lot more than that the next 21 games. So that would be my choice. How about your choice, Ev?
I am so scared to say this, but Javier Baez, because when you combine the glove with what the bat is doing right now, like that is a guy who has a chance to be in the top 5 of the Tigers WAR leaderboard. I like Spencer Torkelson, but I just don't know if he does enough defensively to vault himself up into that top 5 category. I think Javier Baez does enough defensively, especially if he gets enough reps in center field, at shortstop, at third base. Shortstop, center field, both really important positions, and he plays them well. And then the bat too, like if it can continue, if he even hits 240 the rest of the season with a little bit of pop, that's going to be really good for the Tigers. And I think it's something that could vault him into being top 5 by the end of the season. But time will tell on this. We will see.
I think the real answer to this is Riley Green at the end of the day. But
he's not in the top 5 right now. He will climb up there for sure. There's no doubt about that. Riley Green's an all-star. He's a near superstar.
All right, it's time to get out of here. And I just want to reiterate, thank God my partner's back. Shout out to Jared Ramsey. Shout out to Bobby Scales Jr. for helping us out, and all my boys that helped us out when we did the roundtable pod. But there's nothing like having Evan Petzold back on Days of Roar, back like we've been doing for such a long time. I want to remind everybody to rate, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and especially YouTube. And you can always find us within any Evan Petzold article at thefreep.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. I'd also like to thank the editor of the Free Press, Nicole Avery Nichols. I want to thank Associate Editor Ryan Ford. I want to thank the Magic Man, Robin Chan, who was so instrumental in making sure we put out a quality product while Ev was gone. Thanks, Robin. You really have saved our ass for weeks. Shout out to my amazing grandsons who I got to hang out with this weekend. And I only sent Evan 50 pictures while he sent me 100 pictures. So that was pretty awesome for me. I don't think there's anything better than being somebody's papa. I want to shout out to the spectacular, probably lacking in sleep, mommy, Savannah Petzold. I hope she's having the time of her life. And until next week, peace.